Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video we are going to cover another very common JavaScript interview question. What is the difference between an arrow function and a regular function? At first they might look very similar, but there are a few important differences. So let's open VS Code and go through them step by step. First, let's look at the syntax. Here is a regular function and here is the same function written as an arrow function. Arrow functions are just a shorter way to write functions. And if the function only returns one value, we can make it even shorter. So that's one reason developers like arrow functions. The syntax is cleaner. Now, let's talk about the most important difference, which is this. Arrow functions do not have their own this. They use this value from the surrounding scope. Regular functions, on the other hand, have their own this, and it depends on how the function is called. Let me show you a simple example. This works fine, because in a regular function, this refers to the object that called the function. Now let's try something different. Now the result will be not work the way we expect. Why? Because arrow functions don't have their own this. They take this from the outer scope instead of the object. Okay, another difference is the argument object. Regular functions have something called arguments. For example, this prints all the arguments passed to the function, but arrow functions don't have their own arguments object. So if you need arguments, you should use a regular function. Another thing to know is that arrow functions cannot be used as constructors. For example, this works with a regular function. But if you try to use an arrow function with new, it will throw an error. Arrow functions are not designed to be constructors. In modern JavaScript, especially in React projects, we often use arrow functions. They are shorter, cleaner, and they keep the correct this from the surrounding scope. So they work really well in callbacks and functional components. If you want to give a shorter answer in an interview, you could say something like this. The main difference is how this works. Arrow functions don't have their own this. They use the this from the surrounding scope. Regular functions have their own this depending on how they are called. Also, arrow functions don't have arguments and cannot be used as constructors. Alright, that's it for this video. If you're preparing for front-end interviews, make sure you understand when to use arrow functions and when to use regular functions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.